like this.
I might fail, but I hate making people wait, when we definitely have stuff to talk about.
Yep. Oh, you should put up the actual viewing one because we don't know if we're live. And I feel like we are.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean? So you don't see the video to know that we're actually on, which we actually are on right now. What?
Oh, we need to see this? Okay.
Yeah. I understand. I just wanted to see it to make sure that we're live, which obviously we are. Welcome to From the Ground Up. So, what am I talking about? So, our guest today will be on in a little bit later, and we'll introduce them. But we're gonna get the intro and stuff out of the way.
More than intro.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about. So, basically, shirts are available. What?
We don't need the earphones right now.
Oh, yeah, not right now, but I'm going to keep them on so when they come on.
Hey, Brisa.
So,
crazy.
As always, shirts are available, Theportcitypythons.com, and Amazon links are below, and animals are available, and all that good stuff. We will be at the Oak Show in Pennsylvania on November 10th, and we will see all of you guys there. And then, as you guys know, we were at Tinley
You keep saying we.
I was at Tinley this weekend. So, that being said, we will talk about that later.
Yes, because now our guest is here. So.
And now, perfect timing. Our guests are here. So, you guys may know Greg and Chris from Animal Planet's show Scaled. And they have a company called Cornelsworld, which they build custom vivariums for snake owners and reptile keepers of all types. So Chris and Greg, thank you guys so much for being here. And let's start off a little bit on where you're from and what you guys got going on.
Well, we're from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I've been doing this for about 18 years now. And Chris has joined me for the last, about 5 months. Basically, once we started filming, he was kind of brought on full time. And we build crazy custom terrariums. We've been building them for basically 18 years is when I started, but it was, doing 2 or 3 a year, and it's evolved. And this show has definitely changed the way we build things. We've never built crazy enclosures like we have for the show.
So how did you two meet each other?
We're friends through the reptile community. Chris has been into reptiles for a long time, and and I've been into reptiles probably around 20 years. We met at the shows. He was actually one of my wood sales reps for a while, and passion for reptiles, I guess, is where it all started.
And now, how long have you been doing this full time?
I've been doing it full time for about 5 years. Me and my daughter ended up going on Dragon's Den, which is kind of the Canadian equivalent of Shark Tank. And at that point, I decided to give it a go full time. I got a deal on the show, but I backed out afterwards. But kind of the opportunity to try and see if I could make it a full time endeavor.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, what was the deal? How much was it, and why'd you back out?
The crazy thing about it was I was asking for $80,000 for 20%, and he gave me $100,000 for the same percentage. He gave me more than what I was asking, but it's on the show. It's a handshake deal, so it doesn't really mean a lot until you sign the paperwork. And I said afterwards that if they were willing to help me build the business, then I was interested. But if it was just money, I would get a bank loan, and I never heard back from them again. So I went to the bank instead. I mean, it's all TV magic, as they say. So they make it all look really good on TV for the investors and the businesses, or make them look really bad. But at the end of the day, you can walk away at any point until you sign basically the contract.
So a lot of us are just hobbyists, and we would love to do this full time. And something like, if we were on here in the States, Shark Tank, $80,000 sounds like a lot and plenty enough to start a reptile business. But it's hard to convince people from the outside to kind of understand what the reptile industry is even at all. So how did you go about doing that?
I think they could see the passion. I would say that's the biggest thing for them, because yeah, they didn't know anything about reptiles. The one guy thought tarantulas were cool and stuff like that, but like they've never had any themselves and don't understand that. I mean, this is a $1 billion industry, like especially in the US, it's huge. And you know, we're lucky enough to, especially with this show, I think we're kind of the tip of the iceberg for the exposure that we can get with what we're doing now. And I mean, right now it's just kind of in limbo because we don't know if we're going to be getting a second season yet or what's going to happen with that. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. But they kind of put us in a crappy time slot, so it's really hard to get good exposure on a Friday night when everybody's out, you know, doing stuff. So for the network, the biggest thing for them is making sure that the viewers see the show. It doesn't seem to matter if it's PVR'd or, you know, especially with everybody streaming these days, those numbers don't count for anything. So our biggest hurdle right now is making sure people know what this is about and getting the exposure we need so that the network believes that they're investing their money in, you know, a viable TV show.
Now I've seen, because obviously I hit you up just after seeing you respond to something on a Facebook group, on a regular reptile group. So is part of getting that exposure just being, you know, out in the reptile community, whether it be social media or other means?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely helped our cause. And it's really weird when you think about it. Like, you know, we don't see ourselves as like being stars by any means. And, you know, I would say until it's, you know, maybe 3 or 4 seasons in, it won't really hit us. But, you know, it's crazy. You don't go to a movie and go on a Facebook group and chat with the person that you just watched. So like, I kind of, you know, for me, I think it's really cool that we can interact with people. Sometimes, most of the time it's good. I mean, we've had definitely some arguments with people, but we know that we can't please everybody. And that's really, for me, especially, that's going to be the hardest thing, is just knowing that what we're doing has a good reason behind it. And, you know, not everybody's going to like it, but we move forward. And, you know, our biggest thing for this show is just exposing reptiles to the mass public that, you know, we can't make these, you know, these so-called experts happy all the time. But if we can introduce 100,000 to 1 million more people that want to get into reptiles, like, I'm happy with that.
Part of it too is we've got a really good cast here too. You know, keep each other pretty grounded. We're all pretty tight, pretty good friends. We've become good friends during filming and stuff too. But a big part of it is we know we were there in the same position a few months ago, right? Or whatever. So you want to kind of keep that contact. You want to keep that ground level contact where it's more personal. It means a lot more to people when you can actually respond back to them in person like that. To me, that would be really cool if I was on the other side of that. So we try to approach it that way, as if we were on the other side.
Yeah, I think there's something to that, because today, especially the younger kids, are kind of used to being able to interact with people on YouTube or social media, and like there's a barrier that's totally kind of disposed of via the internet.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy because like 20, 30 years ago, you know, there might have been some forums that we were part of, but like, I mean, I used to remember getting the
5 years ago.
Well, I know, but like 20 years ago, like, you interacted with people either at the reptile shows or you waited for the 4 newsletters you'd get in a year to be able to see who was selling stuff. Like, things have changed. It's so much easier to get access to information and the animals. Like, it's crazy. Well, exactly.
Now, how do you guys go about, I mean, what is the feedback from the reptile community that you have gotten thus far? And how do you go about, because you're saying like experts are mad, and I mean, you always, no matter what, people are going to be mad at something. So, yeah, I mean, what are you supposed to do?
The biggest, well, it's like I said, it's hard to please everybody, but the problem is a lot of the people that have been around for like 20, 30 years, they're of the mindset that the way they do it is the only way that it should be done. And they aren't willing to accept the fact that other ways work. For example, like, there's been 3 different, I guess, kind of groups that we've had issues with. One was bearded dragons. And we knew that one was going to happen just with the whole sand debate.
Enough knowledge to know what they're doing.
We didn't hear any of
For
that.
some reason, we're cutting out when Chris speaks. For some reason, I don't know if you need to be closer or something. Just get all nice and close, like.
I find it's kind of, I find it's typically actually the, not newer keepers, but sort of the intermediate keepers, the ones that have been doing it for maybe 2 or 3 years. They know enough to know some stuff, and then now they're suddenly an expert, right? Now they want everything my way or the highway. You can only do this way. Where I find a lot of the long-term guys I talk to understand and know that there's not one way of doing anything. There's a lot of different ways that work, like the whole bearded dragon sand thing. We've got pictures of them in the wild on sand, but people freak out when they see sand in a bearded dragon enclosure. It's pretty funny.
Well, the funny thing about that is I mean, a lot of people don't understand that this also has to appeal to the mass media and everybody else. So there is some things that we don't even agree with, full-heartedly. But like, we aren't going to sell battles. Yeah, we aren't going to sell a bearded dragon enclosure on TV that has paper towel in the bottom. It's just not going to look good. So, in that respect, sure, if you want to do paper towel, once we've done this for TV, do what you want. But like for a lot of those things is, we got to pick kind of the middle ground and keep the viewers happy. And it's got to be flashy enough for them to say that looks awesome. And, but I mean, for our biggest thing is just making sure the animals are happy. And sometimes some people agree with it and sometimes some people don't. But I mean, at the end of the day, every single animal we built for in the 10 episodes haven't had any issues. Like they were all well cared for. Everybody's happy with their enclosures. And yeah, I think we did a good job, whether everybody agrees with us or not.
Well, there's 2 different agendas at work, right? With the TV show, you've got the production company who's making a TV show and they want to make entertainment. And us being reptile hobbyists and enthusiasts, we want to make sure we're putting the best information out there we can. We want to make sure that we're giving them the proper husbandry tips. The animals are happy and healthy. That's our main concern. The secondary is they are making a TV show. So there are some things that maybe it's a gray area. This will be okay, but maybe isn't necessarily how I would necessarily do it. But it still is fine. As well as there's a lot of stuff they can't show. You got a whole day of filming. You may get 2 minutes of TV time out of an entire day. So you could have talked about every detail, about everything, and they take a little 30-second clip of what you've said, and that's what shows on TV.
We basically, to give you perspective, though, which is the craziest thing, we filmed for 4 months, and they probably 1 to 2 days off a week for filming for them. We worked basically almost every single day. But 4 months, so that's like 120 days of filming, say 100 days of filming, maybe 110. And it whittled down to 10 45-minute shows.
Wow.
Like it's crazy. Even the stuff that we've seen so far, there's so many good things that happened during filming that were like, there's some funny parts, but there were some way funnier stuff that's happened and they cut it out. Yeah, well, there's stuff they can't show either, but yeah, we had a lot of fun.
So how long ago was all this filmed?
We started in May and went basically to the end of August, pretty much.
Wow, so they put it out pretty quickly. When did it come out?
It was crazy. It was coming down to the wire. They gave us, well, they didn't give us enough time was part of the issue, and the filming got extended to get it done for what we, they needed 10. They sold 10 episodes to the network, so they needed 10 episodes. So they had to get it done. But literally the week we finished filming, and it wasn't even completely done, that Friday was the first episode. It was, wow. And they're releasing it the day, they're giving it to the network the day it airs. Like, it's crazy.
We were still doing some inserts a few weeks ago. The final stuff was just a few interview clips. Yeah. Just for parts where maybe the sound cut out while you were talking. You can, sort of say what you said or remember whatever, little interview parts and stuff. And that was just a few weeks ago. We were still doing later episodes.
Wow. So I feel like
if the network has to accept it, right? Like if they're giving it to them the day of, they can't be like, nope, like not okay.
No, like I'm sure they see rough cuts and stuff ahead of time. So they have a general direction of the way the show's going. But yeah, they don't get to see the final. And it's funny because it aired on August 24th and I saw it for the first time on August 23rd.
Yeah.
and there was an F-bomb that was dropped that they didn't catch. And it, like, watching the producer see it for the first time and realizing it was there, like, it was like full-on panic mode for him. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So most of that stuff, like 90% of it was filmed earlier on, right? They're just doing the kind of final, nuts and bolts kind of pieces to it.
It's cool though, because like, we film in an order, but the order isn't even how it played out. Like, we knew from the beginning that the Mayan temple was going to be the first episode, but it was probably like I'd say between 4th and 6th build that was like in order. It was like between the 4th and 6th that got completed.
And how does that impede on your regular process of building? And like, you're trying to run a company, how does the filming kind of impede on that?
Completely. Like,
It's
literally
impossible.
my shop for 4 months, like, I was able to fill product orders, but like I probably had 4 or 6 customers. I said, look, I can't get anything done. Either I can refund your money or you have to wait and I give you a discount. But yeah, literally for the 4 months, we didn't know what to expect. It was way harder than we thought.
Nobody knew, like, this is all new, right? And they've done build shows before, but not with these kinds of animals, with this kind of specialized care. So this was new for everybody. And these builds they wanted to do, nobody's done this before. So we were all learning as we went. So, knock on wood, if we get season 2, we know a lot more moving forward, what to expect.
Yeah, it was tough because we told them we needed about 2 weeks per build. And when they first showed up, they were giving us a week, but we were filming.
5 days.
5 days. They wanted us to build like something that could have been worth $20,000 to $40,000. And the problem with that is maybe if we were working for 5 days straight, we could do that. But we would start filming at 9 a.m. in the morning and go all the way to 7 p.m. doing scenes and, letting them see a little bit of stuff. But we couldn't get work done because when the cameras are on, we can't be making noise and stuff like that. So that was hard. They didn't give us enough time to plan the build. So we were literally building like as we went.
Planning as we built, basically. So
And
there's a lot of changes made and had to be approved by the network. Really throws a wrench in it.
And so the hard part for that too was because of that is we couldn't, like, most of these reality shows, I mean, they're great. They make it seem like there's 3 guys building, but most of the shows have like a team of like 20 guys
That
working.
you don't even see.
You don't even see. And they wanted us the whole time to have a ghost crew, but we couldn't. So it's probably one of the few shows that we basically had to do everything ourselves.
Now, you usually see this on reality shows like the old Orange County Choppers or something, where it's always down to the wire with these builds, and some of it may have been contrived, but it seems like a lot of yours may have actually been that
down
rush
to the wire.
kind of get it done.
They were.
Tattoo, especially.
Tattoo, we
the
had
last 2 nights before that one got installed. Me and Rachel pulled all-nighters the last 2 nights, and Greg pulled almost an all-nighter that one night, and then an all-nighter the last night, and then the install as well.
Yeah, it was
insane. I had
that
about
one.
3 hours sleep.
That one was the worst, and like it was hard too because at one point we even had like the film crew were helping us like paint stuff to get it done, and like it was ridiculous.
Tile.
But the problem is like it's not just like if here in the shop, if I need another day, I just tell the customer it's not going to happen, and they might be mad, but usually, as long as it's something they're happy with, they'll be happy. But here, when we're filming, like
multi-million-dollar production, you don't want to be the guy or the reason that these professionals, at top of what they do in their craft, now have to sit around and wait. Like, you don't want to be the reason that these guys can't do their job. So we busted our asses to get it done.
It's funny though, because on one hand, they're telling us we can't pull all-nighters anymore, but then in the same breath, they tell us you have to have this done by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it has to be ready by 9.
Yeah.
But go to bed early.
Catch-22.
Yeah, it seems like I'm wondering kind of, were these, when you filmed it, did they like cast the customers? And then that's kind of, and you went through a process with what animal is going to be, what kind of build it was going to be? Yeah,
I mean, some of them some of them ended up being customers of ours, but when they do something like this, you can't just have anybody, doing a build for anybody. Even if they wanted to pay for it all themselves, like if they're not good on camera, or their house is just like wall-to-wall pets, that doesn't look good either. So they want to vet all these people first. So they have to go through a casting company that interviews them, does a Skype video, and then they basically whittle it down. Like,
interesting people, interesting stories, and interesting animals. It's for TV, right? So
yeah.
Not just grab everybody. So they have to weed through thousands of people to get the product they want to use.
Like I posted originally when I knew this was happening to try and get some clients, and we got some people said that they applied, and other people's like, I'm not giving my information, this is a scam, and like stupid stuff. But at the end of the day, we saw and this is vetted down from however many people responded, we probably saw about 60 potentials.
Yeah.
And it probably from that point, and it's crazy, some of them were so awesome.
Yeah.
Like we had some really cool builds in the beginning. We saw all of these and we're like, oh, we're going to build them all. Like we had all these ideas, and I got whittled down to about 15 to 20. I can't remember how many total, but yeah, and those ones were great too. But there were some amazing stories of people and animals and reasons that they wanted or needed this build. And if we do get a season 2, it's crazy the amount of people that have reached out since, telling us their story, and there's a ton of people that
that's another cool part. It's been some of the we've got tons of fan mail and feedback and stuff, like handwritten and typed out letters to the shop, pictures like little kids with their animals. Like that's been the coolest part for me, is seeing that kind of stuff. Them just kind of reaching out and being able to kind of message them back, or send a message back. It's been really fun.
Yeah, that's a big thing, I guess, especially with what we have seen in the past of animal entertainment. Like your show is not a dramatic, situation with any of the animals or stuff like that. I mean, what do you hope to kind of get out there as far as reptiles go?
Well, I think it's just the exposure to the masses is the biggest thing for us. It's such an untapped market when you think about, shows like Tinley and the Super Shows and shows like that in the US. Those are huge, but in Pomona, you're getting maybe 50,000 people, or I don't know what the number is, but think of that area is an area of 5 million. Imagine if that many more people saw this show and thought, oh, I want to check out these reptile shows, and I want to get my first corn snake or bearded dragon. I remember being at that point, and even now at the reptile shows we do, seeing those kids getting their first bearded dragon or whatever, it's awesome.
It's the educational message too, of the reptiles are creepy, slimy, just all the negative kind of connotations that come with reptiles, and the people that keep them. It's everybody. It's lawyers, doctors, the milkman. Everybody keeps reptiles these days. It's not just tattooed bikers, back in the old days, right? That was the most trailer. Yeah. So it's kind of breaking some of that and showing people that these are, living, breathing animals, just like a cat or dog. They just, are built a little differently, but they still, they're still living creatures and deserve respect, and they're beautiful animals.
Yeah. Now, did all your builds happen and all of your customers in the show, were they all in Canada?
No, and it's funny because the intent was I actually thought the intent was going to be more US because Animal Planet being American. But we did, the first episode was in Arlington, Washington, for Dart Frog Keeper, and then we had a couple lined up in Michigan, and then we were supposed to potentially do a celebrity build in LA, and then there was also a boy we were going to do a build for, but because we went late in the season and they had to extend the time, basically all travel got cut. So all those projects that were going to be farther away, when you think about it, if you have 2 days travel, they still wanted everything done in 5 days. So
2 or 3 days.
Yeah. And then you'd have to, fly down and meet with them. Your first day's tied up in interviews and, meet and greets and stuff like that. So it made sense what they did. It was disappointing because we thought there'd be more travel, but it also made sense as a first season to do a lot more local and get the word out there. And then it's easier for a following season.
Yeah, now we're used to the U.S. hobby as far as reptiles go, and the Canadian hobby are kind of separated just because we can't kind of ship to each other easily and cheaply at this point. Do you actually sell products to the U.S., or is it kind of the same idea?
No, I mean, obviously the caging's easy to sell across border. My biggest problem is just the cost. Like, you know, ever since we've started, you know, so many people have reached out that they want me to do, you know, even like the big majority of what we do here is PVC caging before the show started. And I'd love to sell one cage to every customer who contacts me, but just to get it across the border and paperwork fees is $150. So that part's harder, but it's doable. We're actually in talks with some clients in LA that we're going to do a build for a little boy right before the Pomona Super Show. So we'll go to the Pomona Super Show, and I'm hoping by then we can kind of get feel a little bit better about filming ourselves and start doing YouTube stuff. And we're specifically going down there, well, because I like that show and it's fun. But I mean, the kid wants his first chameleon, and I figure in LA that's probably going to be the best place with, you know, all the breeders and that would be the best place to go.
We can't say any names, but we've had a few pro athletes. We've got some more pro athletes to get the builds done now because of the show already. That's good. I mean, hopefully that continues.
Yeah.
We get to do some more fun stuff like that. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. I mean, we're fanboys just like everybody else. So, you know, getting to meet famous people, like when we first started this, it was, you know, let's do some builds for some famous people and make it. We'll see when that happens.
Yeah.
That happened on Tanked. Did you know? That makes me think Shaq was on Tanked.
Well, Dwight Howard may have them do a boa constrictor enclosure on Tanked.
Yeah,
oh,
he's
really?
done. Yeah, Dwight Howard's done two on Tanked. I guess I've seen the boa enclosure one. I don't know if I saw the first one, but I mean, he's got a crazy collection. I mean, you've got Kerry King from Slayer. There's so many celebrities out there that are into reptiles. So like being able to build something for one of those guys would be cool.
Yeah.
Did you meet? I heard when we first came on that you went to Tinley this weekend.
One of us.
Yeah,
did.
so actually saw Kerry this weekend at Tinley.
Are you guys like? I didn't really even look you guys up ahead of time. Where are you guys located?
We're in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so he got to go on an
Took the
11-hour
12-hour drive.
Oh, it's 12? I thought it was 11. Okay,
Yeah.
12-hour drive to Chicago.
That's probably tops on our list for next year that we'd like to go to Tinley. We had we've got a fairly good network of people that we've I've done a few shows in the US and then we got a lot of friends that do other shows, and we're friends with some of the Zoom Ed reps, so they go to all these shows, and so it'd be cool to hang out at Tinley to visit with them.
The dream would be to do ham as well, right?
Yeah.
Go over to Europe.
Yeah.
Great with that.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, you covered the gamut of as far as Pomona, Tinley,
And ham.
maybe Daytona, but definitely ham as well if you're in Europe.
Yeah, next weekend we're actually in Arlington. Albany,
New York?
Oregon.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't know there was two either. We just say we're going to Portland, but we're doing a show there. Our friend runs the show there, and it should be a fun time. And this one's more going to be about just promoting the show and everything else. Try and sell a little bit of stuff.
Yeah, to people. Go down to the States.
So do you guys typically, at least when you started, did you do more of your typical PVC, like 4-foot cages, what you see in the reptile hobby?
Well, yes and no. Like when I first started, it was just glass tanks, and then I did some higher end glass tanks, but then I transitioned. I had the opportunity to take PVC on, and
melamine boxes in there.
Oh gosh, yeah, melamine. I hate melamine. And the PVC is, I mean, that got me into owning a CNC machine and machining everything for myself. And you know, it grew from there. The crazy thing about how this all started was we got drunk one day and thought we.
That's how every great thing starts. We got drunk one day.
No word of a lie. It was a Friday afternoon. We're like, fuck it, let's screw work today. Let's go drink. And we're having a good time and we're laughing and we're like, we're hilarious. We need a reality show. And that day. Well, no, the next day I saw it because I was drunk, but. That day, I got an email asking that if we'd be interested in a reality show. It's just crazy.
That's very weird coincidence.
I didn't believe him. He calls me up. He goes, "You're never going to believe the email I got." I go, "Yeah. Sure enough."
So did a production team reach out to you?
Yeah, they were looking like the company. It's called Matador Content. Matador Content. The only reason I took it seriously is I looked them up because I was like, yeah, this is a joke. Like somebody's messing with me. And their biggest show is Lip Sync Battle right now. So like they're a company with big shows. So we took it seriously. We did a couple Skype interviews so that they could see who we were, and we got some information about them. And then they flew out and
talked to a couple, a few other people. They reached out to a bunch of people and got some weird responses. Whittled it down. The same kind of process, right? Whittled it all down, and then decided that knuckleheads in Canada would be better for a TV show.
So how long after that contact did it start being?
I think, well, from the initial contact, I think was in May last year or earlier, because basically when we started filming for real, it had been just over a year from the point of starting.
Did the first. They came down with 2 camera guys and did a little 5-minute or 10 minutes kind of concept video. I had a camera guy here to come film us doing what we're doing, and then tried to promote it as a show, put it out there. And so Animal Planet said, "This is great. You've shown us we built this cool frog tank. That's great. You tell us you can do all this stuff. Now prove that you can actually do something like what you're talking about, these really crazy builds. But we need some more people." So then we had to bring in some more friends and some other people, and then it just filed from there. And then I think it was October was the second sizzle reel.
Finally made it out. It was in October.
That was like a 24-minute thing over 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, that was 100 hours of film, and it went down to 24 minutes.
And were you guys ever on camera before that?
Nope.
Did you feel comfortable?
You can't tell that we've never been on camera before?
Not necessarily. No, you can't tell at all.
Chance did some YouTube videos for his pinball stuff, and then Rachel did some cool videos and stuff.
Yeah,
I think that's it for YouTube stuff for us.
But even the way this show works is, it's made for TV, and we had probably 3 legitimate guys at the start that kind of hung out here and did some work, but everybody else was kind of brought on to kind of, you can't have just a couple people.
Yeah.
You need to have all these different characters, and Lucas did background work for himself, but he doesn't work here. And Rachel, they actually found Rachel, and she lives 7 hours away, and they thought,
oh gosh.
She answered a casting call thinking it was like a women woodworking competition show. Had no idea what she was getting into initially.
And then the funny thing about that was when she showed up is my shop's at the back of the building, and she comes in and there's
a sketchy neighborhood in the middle of Calgary. She doesn't live here.
She followed Google Maps to get here, and he shows up and there's 4 biker dudes with tattoos in the back of the building.
Ty and Jim. Well, so Tyrone, you've seen on the show, right? Big beard, covered in tattoos. Sweetest guy I'll ever meet. Nice. He's hands down the nicest guy in the cast by far. And just like a saint of a man. So him, but he has that look, right? And there's another friend of ours who has a similar look. The 2 big tattooed burly dudes. She comes walking in, a girl from another province away, knows nobody here, comes walking in. There's just these 2 guys standing there, and she's stuck around. So we're like, yeah, she's probably going to fit in just fine, and she has. It's like we've known her for 20 years. It's crazy.
The crazy thing is, so the film crew that initially started with us and sold this were part of Matador, but when they do a full series, they're hiring all freelance guys. So everybody was brand new, and by first couple of weeks, we started become friends with them, and they're asking how we all met, and like they all thought we knew each other for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And, like the cast for the most part, like all fits in fairly well.
We've known Ty for a super long time.
Yeah.
Close to, anyways.
Jay's probably about 10 years. Lucas is probably the least amount.
Say 5 or 6 years.
Well, Chance is less, but Chance doesn't count.
So how does it feel to like suddenly be seemingly just you guys, and for a long time I guess it was just Greg, and then all of a sudden you have all these employees and all these things to manage?
For me, it was hard because I'm totally disorganized as it is. So having to manage everything, I mean, I probably didn't do the best job of it, but we had some explosions and
It's all part of the process.
some fights that thankfully never got shown. But, it's
You
funny
would think that would be the first thing that they show, right?
Well, it's funny because if you
late off camera.
yeah, well, some was on, some was off.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But it's because of the network they're going for. Like even in my contract, it says that once I signed it, they could portray me in whatever way they wanted. Like it could be stuff that was said off camera, but they got the audio and they could use it, and it could be negative.
That's the thing I think people don't know, and we didn't know either coming into it, right? You think that you have more control over what's put out there than you do. Like these are people that are professionals in their field, right? So you do your job. You're the reptile guy, or we're building stuff. That's great. We'll film it. Just be yourself, do your thing, and then we have no say in what happens after that. So these guys put together a TV show. They're the producers, the editors, all that stuff. They edit together a TV show based on all the footage they have. So they're cutting out sections. Luckily, I mean, because it's Animal Planet, because of the production company's great. They're fantastic. They do vet a lot of stuff through us and put a lot of stuff, is this accurate? Is this, somebody who's really tired, maybe he said something that didn't quite come out right. You misspeak or something because you're just on the spot, right? It's like, wait a minute, did I say that? No, I didn't mean to say that. So they do vet things that way, but we don't have any control over what they put out. Like, we don't see it until it's airing.
Yeah, like the first episode I got to see the day before because it was kind of a wrap party, but otherwise we wouldn't get the episodes till the day it was airing in the US. So like we've seen, luckily it got pulled in episode 5 to go to a new time slot, and we've seen up to episode 6, but that's it. Like we don't know how the rest of the episodes look, and like so. And there's things that we've learned too is, they tell us to do something and now we realize, maybe that won't look that great.
Yeah.
We got a little heat for our little chameleon water bubbler that
But it wasn't supposed to be put as a way to water your chameleon. It was kind of, can we get this chameleon to drink a different way than it normally would? Is this going to work? And let's actually work, and it worked. But
everybody's like, oh, you can't water your chameleon with a water bowl.
And then they start going, oh, this is how you should be doing it. I'm like, no, nobody said to do this. This was sort of, they're looking for some R&D, for some little segments to put things in. Like, we'll try this, and will this work? Will this be a different way to maybe stimulate this chameleon to drink? Let's see if it works. So that was kind of the gist of it, and we kind of got lost in the video, so we took a lot of heat for that. You can't water it that way; it won't drink. Well, it did drink, but we wouldn't do that normally.
Well, and we had no plants in the cage because if we had plants, you wouldn't see the water.
Yeah,
so.
he would have been hiding in the plant. So
yeah. So,
people have to understand how much you have to stage, and it's frustrating to me. I'm not even on the show, but how people just forget their brain. Like we all know when we watch those HGTV, all those house shows, half that shit isn't real. And it goes we know, we acknowledge that when we watch those, but then
Maybe
when it
some
seems
people don't.
I don't know, but it seems like when it comes to animals, people like to,
and there's only one way to
forget that
do
they
it.
know that it's different. Like when I see the house shows, I know that $10,000 mirror isn't going to stay in that house, or that's not how it's going to be forever. But I don't know. It seems like when it comes to animals, people like to forget that stuff. I don't know.
Here's a crazy one: is the Kevin on the treadmill video. So we didn't put Kevin on a treadmill to lose weight. That's not how that happened. It was just some funny thing to let's make it look like Kevin's, because Kevin's fat when we started. Kevin's gonna lose weight. right? So we were actively throughout filming having Kevin lose weight, and it took like 3 hours to get Kevin to run on the treadmill.
3 steps.
Yeah.
If you look
That's
at
right.
that video
It took some
again,
people 3 hours,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
somebody came up and it took 30 seconds. But we it's got like almost 10 million views now on YouTube. It's insane. Back in, like there's all these educational videos that have great information. The one that resonates the most is putting little wristbands and headbands on a bearded dragon, having it run on a belt sander. Like, it's insane.
imagine how many views we would have got if we would have had it.
I know. Yeah. Oh man. Horrible.
People just take it so literally.
Yeah.
Things aren't
exactly.
always black and white.
Yeah.
No. And that's the problem is people are watching it, and we even get responses that you can tell that they're taking it as if we've been like working Kevin to the bone on a treadmill, and like stupid stuff like that. Like even like it's funny how people will take time out of their day because they know how to contact you and let you know their opinion on the dumbest things.
Yeah.
So
we've had some interesting conversations. I mean, you try and be nice. I understand that it's coming from a good place. They mean well, so you try and treat it as such, and kind of ignore most of the bad stuff. And there hasn't been a ton of it. There's been a lot of personal stuff for some cast members. Like Rachel's taken so much heat.
Because of what? Oh no, we lost you guys for a second.
Episode, or because she's afraid of snakes, that they're saying she should be fired from the show, and this is a reptile show. And it's like calm down.
I feel like the production team was probably happy that she's afraid.
No,
of
yeah, that
snakes.
was probably somewhat intentional, but it gives you the opportunity to show someone getting over their fear.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course they had to play off that because that's the thing. They're looking for a weird angle to make good TV, whether or not it's even has anything to do with the show.
And to connect with the average viewer, right? The average viewer isn't a reptile enthusiast, so a lot of people are afraid of snakes. So that resonates with Joe Q Public is most people can relate to that, right? That character being afraid of snakes. So then they're seeing kind of how she's getting over it, and it's legit. Like it's not made up for the show or anything. She legitimately doesn't like snakes, but her daughter loves snakes. So being a good mom, she's got to suck it up and do what she's got to do, and she's been a trooper through the whole thing.
Yeah, it's funny.
Crap.
Yeah, well, and she's held probably 4 or 5 snakes and was not fine with it, but
dealt with it.
Dealt with it, and
it's gotten way better.
Yeah, and it's not something that was going to be solved overnight.
Yeah.
So.
But it wasn't one of those situations where you force the animal on someone and it's some crazy situation.
No, because I mean, from the start, the few things that we said had to happen for us to be interested in doing this isn't just made for TV. This is like it's a legitimate business. I've been doing this. My name's on all these builds, so they were telling us about how reality shows work, and a lot of these shows, when they do a reveal, the stuff isn't even done. Like they just fake it, and they may get the stuff 10 years or like a year later in some regard. But for us, I mean, the biggest thing is we're not making it good for TV to their extent where they're pulling that kind of stuff out as soon as we leave. And the biggest thing is that, these animals have to thrive in these enclosures. And we were basically being modeled after Tanked, and there's a lot of negative stuff like with Tanked that, because it's so rushed that, these fish aren't acclimated properly and they end up dying a week later. And we didn't want that. So, I mean, that was one of the major things. And same thing, we didn't want the shock value. I mean, you can think of like how Brian Barchuk is, always in hot water because his snake bite videos and stuff like that, where he's just doing it for viewership. And I mean, well, that's good, but that doesn't project reptiles in a positive light. And we wanted to do the opposite and do the education and showing that these animals are great pets and that, just about anybody could care for these animals.
A big thing too, when we started, we all said, all of us agreed, we talked about it ahead of time, was we've all had varying degrees of experience and are known in the industry before this show, to a point, some of us more than others. And then the show will have whatever lifespan it has, whether it's 1 season, whether it's 10, whatever it is. it's just going to be a temporary thing. And we still have our lives to live after the show happens, and our reputations and stuff in the industry. Like that's something you can't, you can't compromise on that. So that's
it's not worth it to sacrifice it.
No, it's just a TV show. So we wanted to make sure that, you know, we tried to keep that integrity all the way from the beginning, all the way through, and do our best to do that. And, you know, some of it's out of our control, how stuff gets shown. But I still feel like nothing's been bad that I've seen. You know, there's been some stuff that, okay, I wouldn't do it that way, but really at the end of the day, is it really that bad? No. A princess castle for ball pythons, I wouldn't do that. But she loved it. She loved it. And we've had so many people say they loved it. I'm like, I would never suggest that to somebody. That's what she wanted, and it still works. The footprint of it works. Yeah, it's a little tall. They're probably not going to climb much, but it works, and it's still fine. There's hides and stuff in there. Like, you know, it is what it is, right? So we just wanted to make sure that the integrity was there. We weren't doing stuff just for TV that you know would tarnish us down the road, where it's like, oh, I can't believe you did that. That totally harmed that animal, or that's dangerous. Like, we don't want any of that stuff. Nothing sensationalistic. Silly things, that's no big deal, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of silly things.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah, but you guys are funny. That's why there's a reality show.
Funny because there's been a few episodes now where there was like so many funny things that happened, and they either said right away that that's not going to make it the year, or we're hoping that we're going to see it, and then it's not in there.
Oh, so many things. Yeah, there was so many fun things we did during filming that got filmed. We thought we were going to be on the show and didn't make it.
Yeah.
Like the hot dog in the bunghole thing. I don't know if we can talk about that.
Wait, what?
Have you guys seen the episode? It's the episode with the wine barrels. I think it's either 3 or 4.
I haven't.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Anyways, we built this. It was a prohibition build. They named all their snakes. No, 5 was a bearded dragon one. So it's either 3 or 4. Anyways, it was a prohibition build because all their snakes were named after like gangsters or like, you know, kind of mobster type names. And so we decided that we're going to do a build out of wine barrels. Yeah. And basically they were going to be stacked in a pyramid. And during filming, we found out that the hole in a wine barrel is called a bunghole.
Had a lot of fun with that. But then one of the camera guys, because we had filmed something the day before with some hot dogs and tiger torches, we had a pack of hot dogs in the fridge at the shop. So between takes, one of the camera guys is dropping hot dogs down the bunghole. He starts climbing up a ladder, and he's dropping it further and further. And he gets to the top of the ladder, like a 10-foot ladder. And it takes him like 40 tries. And by that time, everybody's crowded around watching. So he finally gets it through. Everybody cheers. Yeah, this is great. This is hilarious. We're all laughing and stuff. So they start filming a scene, and then the producer comes to me, and it was Greg and Rachel filming a scene. They're doing some cutting or something of some barrels. And he goes, come here for a second. He pulls out a hot dog. He goes, you know what to do with this. He goes, we're going to have a little contest. I go, okay, perfect. I love where you're going with this. So I go walking up to them, and Greg has this look on his face. He's like, oh, what's going on? So I'm like, we're going to have a little contest. Like, losers have to eat the hot dog. Everybody's kind of giggling, laughing and stuff. We're like, okay. So Greg gets up there. He drops it. He misses. So while he's doing that, I'm standing there, and Rachel kind of elbows me, and she goes, losers have to eat it Lady of the Tramp style.
Oh, God.
All right, you're on.
But this whole time, like, even when I was up there on the first one, I'm like, this is going to go like 4 or 5 rounds.
Like, it took Brent, the camera guy, like 40 tries to do this, right? Like, this is, you know, the hole is like, you know, it's a barrel in a hole in a wine barrel. So I go up, I do it, I miss as well.
Well, at least we're close.
We're close. And then when Rachel goes to do it, she kind of stops, and then she kind of gets a smile on her face, and she rolls the hot dog in the sauce. So it's like breaded now. It's covered in like this gross wine barrel sawdust from cutting wine barrels, this hot dog. And then she gets to the top of the ladder, and she goes, oh, by the way, losers have to eat Lady of the Tramp style. Right, makes the big announcement of that. I'm like, oh, yeah. And Greg's like, okay, fine, you're on. Lines it up. She winks at us, and they had GoPros and everything set up in the barrel, and nails it in one shot. She dropped it from a 10-foot fucking ladder.
She was ready.
Yeah, we're like, oh, man.
She won a lot of bets.
Yeah, she won a lot of bets.
But yeah, and then we ate the hot dog Lady in the Tramp style sawdust.
And then they were just like, the camera guys were crying. They were laughing so hard. Like, it was the best day. It was so much fun. But they're like, Animal Planet's like, yeah, we can't
I kind of understand why they couldn't put that on TV.
Yeah, you need to have like a separate show on somewhere where you
Bloopers.
can have hot dog in the bunghole contest.
That'll probably be after this.
Cornelsworld After Dark. Yeah.
After dark. Yeah, it'll be a YouTube subscription service. The crazy thing about all the builds is, like, for the majority of it, it was well, mostly Rachel and Chris doing all the work. Like I said, we would film from like 9 a.m. and we'd usually wrap about 7 p.m. And then that's when the real work had to get done. So like the three of us, when I was here, I mean,
we were here most of the time.
I was
don't undersell.
Well, no, but anyways, like it's crazy. We'd be working till like 2, like on a normal day, we'd get home at 2 or 3,
4 in the morning,
and then we had to be back at 9. And like we had an air mattress set up here. We slept in chairs.
Yeah. It's, you know, this is like a once in a lifetime thing, right? Like nobody gets this kind of opportunity on a TV show. So we were like, we're gonna do whatever we have to do to make it work, right?
There's a lot of beers, some Red Bull, some bourbon, some Fireball.
We get sponsored by some company.
Yeah, we need sponsorship by Rockstar. Yeah, we were going like, I mean, we're bad for energy drinks as it is, but like at that point, we're going through each like 4 a day just to like get by.
Your
like, that says like one of them a day is like dangerous for you.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
I think
second season will hopefully be different.
Full head of hair.
Yeah. Are you guys
we
good?
lost you for a second.
Did you say you had full hair before this?
Full hair. Yeah.
He didn't. He's kind of shit.
He
lost 30 pounds. I gained 30 pounds. Whatever.
I think the most important thing that we can get across is that, like, you guys are reptile people who came from the reptile community. You're not like, I feel like people get an impression when you're on TV that's like, these guys are real reptile people. And people don't like that. But you guys are.
Yeah, and I think that's I mean, because that is what happens. Like, even like, because it's part of Animal Planet, the guy from Cribs or Animal Cribs or whatever, we were told that company was created, you know, based on him. It's not an actual business, or at least as far as we knew. But he's yeah, I know it might be now, but like, you know, they brought him on thinking we need to make a show for this guy's based around him, and a business was created. Whereas, like, I mean, I've had this going for, like I said, 18 years, and once this show's over, my business still has to run. So it's a lot different for them and for us.
We're like I said, we're all legit reptile people working on the show. Like myself, I've got about 30 years experience. Greg, like 20 so years experience. Tyrone's around 20 years experience. Jason's been doing it for around 10 years. Lucas, 5 to 10 years.
Basically, we have over 100 years of experience between, you know, all the cast. Which, when you put it in that perspective, it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
but it's not people they just picked to be like. We picked when they were talking about filling out the cast and stuff. It's like, pick some friends or people you know in the industry that are reptile people that maybe have, you know, quirky personality or, you know, a certain look or whatever, that they'll be interesting for TV. But they need to know their stuff. And that's the most important thing, is they need to know reptiles and need to be passionate about reptiles.
Well, luckily in the reptile community, quirky look and personality is pretty much comes with it.
It's real hard to find. Yeah.
So it's funny because I was going to say, like, even when I started in this business, I mean, I did local interviews for radio. I was part of the Reptile Society, and I usually would get interviewed because.
Oh, you cut out again.
And I mean, that's what you got to get across. And kind of what we wanted to do was show that it's not just, you know, tattooed bikers with a big snake, you know, are into these animals. Like, there's, like Chris said, there's lawyers, there's like animals. It's not just like one type of person that loves these animals.
Yeah, it's all walks of life.
So going back a little bit, we kind of talked about how you started this business, but how did you each like actually get into snakes? You said you've been into it for like 20 years. How did you get into snakes?
Or reptiles
excuse me, reptiles. Oh, wait.
And dragons as a little kid, and then collecting garter snakes and tree frogs and frogs. So I grew up in the West Coast near Vancouver, in Canada here. I moved out to.
Are you guys still there?
Yeah, we keep on losing you a
for
little
some
bit.
reason. Oh, I don't.
Yeah, we're getting it on our end too. Oh, hold on.
Well, we've
I'm
never
not
had
on-
anyone from Canada, so we're blaming it on Canadian
I
internet.
know we're so far away, and we're under 10 feet of snow.
Our
So
internet-
We
I
actually
was having trouble connecting here.
it's perfectly fine. What's
Oh.
going on?
Okay,
1 second,
give
just
me a
change it.
second. I'm going to change to a different Wi-Fi.
Yeah, go for it.
In Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, so repeat all the things you just said.
Oh.
Oh wait, we still lost you.
I feel like we have to fill time. They're frozen.
Okay, talk about Tinley.
Okay, yeah, but by the time I get really into the Tiddly story,
Well, if
we're
you
actually
do your little intro like
we're
that,
gonna have Matt Minatola on next week,
you're
and
not supposed to say it.
yeah, but Matt's actually coming. And
No,
we drove
what
to
if
Tinley
he
with
like
him, so
gets in a car accident and he can't?
Jesus
come?
Christ, calm
Well,
down.
whatever. You're not supposed to say who's on next week.
Well, anyway, we're gonna talk a lot about Tinley then. But
Okay, well they're
it
back.
looks like Greg and Chris are back.
Oh, maybe not.
Spoke too soon.
It says check.
Oh,
We're not. It doesn't show that.
Oh,
just when he says "oh," it freezes. Oh yeah. So
So I mean, we'll talk.
while they're still figuring it out,
There
little
we go.
plug.
No?
Watch Scaled on Animal Planet.
Is this the commercial?
If you
break?
haven't already, yes, this is a great commercial break. Scaled is a very great show. It has 5 episodes right now, I believe. There's a gangster one. What? 10 total, but there's only 5 out right now, or at least 5 on Animal Planet's website. And you can watch them.
No, I think it's ahead of time in the US, correct? Like more have aired on real time TV. We don't have cable, by the way, so let's preface that.
You can watch it on the Animal Planet's website.
Right, but it says premiered on September 21st.
Oh, that was a while ago.
the UK, I think September, because it was September in the UK, and then and I think Asia. We have friends in China that watched the show. And then it was Canada in October.
Canada was the first episode in the U.S.
So we have someone in Australia. Do you know when it comes on there?
So right now it's off the air. We're told that it's supposed to come back in the U.S. 10 p.m. So
Wait,
few more
repeat
weeks.
that.
Oh no.
This is struggle central.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So November.
It's just cutting out so much.
Give me a beer while you're at it, while we're going through this.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Us Canadians do things slower, you know.
Okay, so 2 more weeks. It's coming back here. God damn it.
Just when like it starts going, and then we go enough to.
Right,
ask
when
a
we ask a
question.
real question, then we lose them again. The in between while they're trying to get it to work, it's working. And then when we ask a question, it's like we fuck it up. with the
Maybe I should
question.
edit this one now. I shouldn't leave in this in the middle, huh?
Just edit this whole middle part out the podcast. Is that what
No,
I'm saying?
just us struggling.
I don't know. It's funny because usually you don't have to do much editing. And this whole time I've been thinking, wow, he's gonna have real fun editing this podcast for the download. This will be very interesting. Oh, they're really working hard.
We've had some haunted podcasts,
But it hasn't
it's
been in
like
a while.
Garbo
Like,
shit.
like,
It's never been the connection.
is it us?
Oh
Hey.
no, hold on,
Yes.
Chris. My laptop wasn't plugged in, so it was maybe that. Because it all of a sudden seems way better.
It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like
now
a.
it seems perfect.
So November 9th at 10 p.m. after Tank is when we're supposed to be back on here.
Okay, but what about Australia?
I don't know. We haven't asked.
I mean,
know we have friends in my family are in China and they've watched it. So apparently you can see it in China and Europe and
yeah,
and
Europe.
Before we could see it here in Canada.
Yeah.
You expect them to know every single country when it comes out?
Yeah. Uzbekistan is.
We're just gonna
make shit up.
We're gonna at that. We figure at least in Europe, it's like the English speaking countries would be the ones that would be the ones that we would air in. But according to what we've been told, Animal Planet's fairly small there. So like obviously the biggest market was the US. So that's where they want to appeal to first, and then Canada, I would say, would be next.
I want to see what kind of overdubs they have in like Spain or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a Mexican accent.
Okay, so my question before all the craziness is, how did you get into reptiles? Hope I don't mess it up with that question again.
Sorry. Oh, how did you get into reptiles? So for me, it was as a kid, a lot of guys in the reptile industry, dinosaurs and dragons as a child, and then just collecting the local garter snakes and frogs. I grew up in the west coast of Canada near Vancouver. I moved out to Calgary in '89. And then I started seriously collecting stuff, and that's when I, got my first king snakes and iguanas and all that stuff, and then went from there.
For me, it was like as a kid, I had an anole growing up for like, I don't know, I probably didn't last even that long. But then once I got into college, I was always interested in going to pet stores, and I was a cheap asshole, so I always thought like I could probably pull the tank for for cheaper or whatever, and so when I started getting in college, I was able, I didn't have any restrictions on parents telling me I couldn't have certain things. I started buying reptiles, and then I started building cages, and that kind of ballooned into the business.
Now, did the more custom stuff, did that happen with the show?
Yeah, I mean, that's like...
No, not really, though, because he always has done custom stuff. There just hasn't been a big demand for it.
No.
And notoriously, especially up in Canada, I can't speak about the States. A lot of people don't like to spend a lot of money on the reptile hobby up here. So it's harder to find people with the deep pockets that will pay money for custom builds up here. So
yeah, I mean,
they're there, but it's just finding those people is difficult. I mean, now having a show, we're getting more people contact us.
Like, he is right though, because like back then I was doing custom builds, but maybe I'd get 5 a year. And I'm doing like 400 PVC cages at the same time. But now, now it could be that it transitions because of the exposure, that everything we do is custom. The weird thing for us, though, is like custom for us was always like, it might look really cool, but it's always specifically for the animal. So when we're having to do things like princess castles and things where it's themed to the people as opposed to the animal, that was kind of a thing that we've never
range themes.
Yeah, that's the thing that we've never dealt with before. So now it's weird when I have people contact me, and the majority of them is because of the show, is having to ask like, what are you looking for? Are you looking for naturalistic, which is what we always want to do, versus like you're into rock, so like what's your favorite band? Let's figure out a way to stick a drum set in with a gecko,
or some flashing lights or smoke routine or something.
So
so it's gone from being custom habitat from their native area they're from, which would be our preference ideally, but that's great. But how many jungle scenes can you show on TV week after week after week? They want some different stuff, right? So like we know, the snakes and the lizards don't care if it's a paper towel or if it's this or if it's a cardboard hide or whatever. We do that stuff more for us than for them. We enrich it with different things, different textures that they can use, but the theming becomes more for the people. So that's where it is different with the custom stuff.
Now, are you seeing your customer base shift a lot from like reptile keepers and breeders to kind of your first time pet owner and pet level animals in general?
The contact that we've been getting since the show, I would say, is, we are getting a lot of newbies that are just getting into it, and they're more interested in that flashiness than just the needs of the animals. We've had a lot of people that say they don't even have animals, that want to get some the first.
Sorry.
No.
I don't think she's laughing at that.
Oh, what's
No,
happening?
I don't know why she's
No,
laughing
I am.
either.
I'm like, I'm sorry, you're gonna reach out to these people who have this real TV show and you don't even have an animal yet.
No, like you wouldn't believe how many people they're like, I don't even know what kind I want, but I just want one of your cool cages. And it's like, it's not even about the animals so much anymore. It's just like they want something that was made by guys who are on TV.
We need a cool coffee table bill. You know, those people go, I'm an animal. I just want a cool coffee table. Put stuff in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like,
And it's funny too, like the things that have got the most, I guess, like, you know, the things that they've contacted us the most is like the rattlesnake backpack and the tortoise coffee table.
Yeah.
Which, you know, some of these theme builds we do, like episode 6 is my favorite. It's like a Bill and Ted's inspired phone booth, and it's so cool. And like, you know, I'm
spoiling it.
You get sorry, we're spoiling it for you. You guys haven't seen that episode yet.
No,
But,
she doesn't even know what Bill and Ted's
Don't throw me under the
Excellent
bus. I
Adventure is.
secretly asked, Herndon secretly asked you that.
The cast and haven't
Yeah,
seen it
so
either,
yeah, some of the cast have. How old are you guys?
I'm 26.
You say that like I'm so different.
No,
I'm
no, you're not.
25.
I just had older siblings that show me 80s movies.
What is Bill and Ted? I don't know.
Bill and Ted's like an 80s inspired, like, I mean, it's basically me and him, like, as teenagers doing stupid shit, but they go back in time through a phone booth and, like, meet all these, like,
Keanu Reeves and it hasn't aged well. If you try and watch it now, it's not a great movie.
but they are making a third one.
Back then, it was great when I was a kid. And I watch it now, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, it's kind of a cult movie. It's a cult 80s movie.
Yeah, it's a cold 80s movie.
Yeah.
And the people that we built it for were into that sort of thing. They run a comic book shop, so
Yeah.
totally fitting for them. But it turned out so awesome. But like these builds that we think are so amazing, and then like for every episode we'd have either a major build, and then either a smaller like kind of B story or a B build, or it would be a B story. So the rattlesnake backpack and the the coffee table were like the smaller builds. Like these ones actually happen fairly quickly, but they're the ones that people have actually contacted us. I guess maybe they're more realistic for people to own. But
it's something people can't afford, like a $40,000 or $50,000 Mayan temple in your, you know. So it's a coffee table is a lot more reasonable. Like I got a tortoise, I can put on a coffee table.
Yeah.
Great.
The Mayan temple was crazy. That's our biggest build to date. I mean, it was over $40,000 for that unit. It's crazy.
Well, it was about 16 feet, right? About 8 feet each way. Like it's huge. It's
It
all
was
concrete.
huge.
It
took up most of the room that it was in. It's crazy. And you know, Miss King stuff is cheap, or sorry, is not cheap. Is super high end for you know the misting system, but their lighting systems that they sell. I mean, I think it was like, you know, almost $5,000 or $6,000 just for the lights in that build. Like, and most people can't afford that. It's crazy.
Your average hobbyist isn't going to stand up lighting for dart frogs.
So the natural question is, who foots the bill for all this stuff?
The customers pay a portion of it, and production covers the rest.
If you ever see a casting call for anything, regardless of what it is, you should apply.
Do it. You pay pennies on the dollar. You pay that amount, and then the production covers the rest.
And that's too where like the money for what people could afford was the least of their concerns. I mean, it could be that the clients were so great, or you know, there was such a special story behind it that they don't end up paying anything. It just depends on circumstances.
Wow.
What they're looking for.
What's our sob story to get on the show, babe?
But it's not even about that either. Like, you know, like Chris said, it's either, you know, there's a really cool, maybe a super rare reptile that they have that they want to showcase, or, you know, or it's a kid with, you know, some sort of, you know, if they can see passion in their eyes and they've got like, you know, some sort of good story about how they came across this reptile or something. All from that aspect is that it's good for people.
They want some different reptiles. that's kind of the main driving part of it, and then a good story behind it, and then go from there.
Yeah. Obviously, you can't have somebody in front of the camera that won't talk. Like they vet them beforehand to make sure that they're going to be somewhat good on TV. But even for that regard, like we had some.
Don't say it.
We had some times where you just wouldn't get any response. And like we'd have to film things like 3 or 4 times till they got it good enough that that it was going to be able to be used for TV.
You mean like as an unveiling?
Some of that actually, and the funny thing is because some of them were legitimately so excited that they just shut down.
Aww.
They don't have any reaction where they're like,
they didn't know what to say.
And they were like, they didn't know what to say, and it's like this almost awkward moment where you're like, they're like, oh, and then we had one where they had this great reaction, and I thought they were like faking it because it was so over the top. And then the camera's turned off, and we're talking, and this girl starts crying. I'm like, man, like, wow, you really do love it. Like, she was like, yeah, this is the best thing ever. And she's like bawling. So it's sometimes because the cameras are there, they get a little weird. So they've got to shoot things a few times. They got to get some different angles and all that stuff. So sometimes they got to shoot those reveal scenes. Maybe they weren't as excited as they meant to be because they were just so blown away. They were just stunned. And then it's like, whoa, okay. They start looking at stuff and they're all excited now. Okay, now let's go outside and refilm it. And they're like, yeah, that's great. That's how they felt, but they weren't showing it. So it gets a little weird that time sometimes.
Yeah, I would be that person.
The TV aspect for us was really crazy because, I mean, even when it was a normal thing to see, there's only 2 cameras there, and they want to get as many views and as many reactions as they can. So like usually on any scene we'd have to film like 3 times, so they had different angles, and like half the time we've forgotten what we said, and like it's weird what they end up using and what they don't use.
Whatever. They try to keep it as real. Like they don't want to feed you lines. They don't want to make it fake, so they're like, just be yourself and don't worry about trying to do too much, right? Like don't overact. Don't try and make it like a sitcom moment. Like just be yourselves, and that resonates way better on TV. When you get used to it, it's weird because you get used to being on camera so much you forget the cameras are there after a while, and then you go somewhere where somebody else suddenly has cameras in their face for the first time, and they're doing this stuff, and they're all embarrassed and weird about it. It's like, no, it's fine, because they think they have to nail it. It's like live TV or something. It's not live. Like they're shooting hours of stuff, and most of it's not getting used. So you stop caring about that. That makes it easier. So then you can really tell right away when we start filming somewhere and the customer hasn't been in front of the camera yet, and they're really nervous and a bit awkward. And then like an hour later, they're fine. But we're used to it now. But we did the exact same thing, right? So
the weird thing for us now is we do stuff and we're like, God, why wasn't there a camera around? Like now it's just weird that we our shop used to be so full of people because like the production crew, there was probably at least 10 people with the film crew that would be hanging out all day, and now we've just got 3 of us and we're pretty bored. Now we have to actually work. Well. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm ready to make a shift. Do you still have a more show question?
Well, I wanted to know, since everyone in the U.S. is very, very jealous of them being able to keep Fiji iguanas.
That's kind of in reference to what I was.
Have you built a Fiji iguana enclosure?
We cannot confirm or deny.
No, we don't. We can't. No.
Okay, next question.
I think you answered it though. That's good.
We didn't do one for Fiji, but Jay
would love to.
Jay, as part of our cast, actually has one.
Yeah.
So maybe in the future.
Season 2, we'd love to get that.
Yeah. Actually, we didn't even use it, did we? Yeah, no, we didn't.
Well, my question was kind of just shifting.
The crazy thing is, like, you guys can be jealous about Fiji iguanas. Like, there's a lot of there's so much stuff that you guys can keep and stuff that's available in the U.S. that isn't. Like, even for tortoises, for example, it's illegal to export tortoises from the U.S. to Canada. So, like, a Herman's for us is $450, but you go to a show down there and they're like $100. Like, it's crazy.
Well, yeah, that's
I
what
think availability, is a bit different.
Yeah, like
that's like 500K.
Well, yeah, true. Your exchange rate sucks. So anyway, yeah.
Well, that's what I
But
wanted to
I
ask
would
you
say
about.
based on population and just the availability, most of the animals usually come through the U.S. So like you guys have way bigger variety of available animals than we do.
We also had some slick fellas back in the 70s and 80s who.
I know. You want to hear a funny story about that? Is the original title of the show was going to be Lizard King, and we're like, no, that doesn't work for us.
Yeah, kind of already associated with something else.
Yeah. So, and it's crazy because, like, I mean, as mad as you have to be, or you want to be about, all the smuggling and stuff back then. I mean, that's how a lot of these animals are here today.
You would never have Kevin on the treadmill without it.
Yeah, exactly.
100%.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So,
Are you mad about it? I don't. Yeah, I'm not mad about it.
I mean, you can say all you want about him, but like, I would still love to go see his facility.
Anyone would.
And like, I've talked to him before, and like, he again, probably the money and everything else, like at the time, and the notoriety, but like at the general like basis is he loved reptiles. Like, and he did all this because, he wanted these cool animals, and now today they, you can love them or hate them, but now they're available because of a lot of that stuff that went on back then.
And it's not like these were, endangered animals at the time.
No, the funny thing is my buddy in Montreal was at the Toronto show, and he got a picture of Tom Crutchfield holding a Fiji iguana. So I thought that was actually pretty funny, because the funny thing is for me is I was reading the book at the time, and like, so getting Tom wanting to hold a Fiji iguana because he knew the irony of this photo, and so it's crazy.
So what are shows like in Canada? There's just so much. I mean, I know y'all are just like right up there.
So I can't say, like, I know what ours are like. I don't know what yours are like. So I'm looking forward to going to the one in Albany.
Like, I don't know how many people are through the door in Tinley, but like, I know the promoter for the Reptile Super Show, Rami, and like, I've been to 3 or 4 of his shows, and like, I mean, it gets so crowded in there, you literally can't move, but the aisles are like 10 to 15 feet wide. Like, our shows can kind of be the same, but like, there are 100 tables and there's like 4 feet between, there's 4 feet to walk. So like, they're packed, but we just don't have the population that you guys do. So the shows are typically a lot smaller.
Less than 10,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you guys have a lot of small shows too that, just don't get, talked about that much, but you get like Tinleys and Daytonas and the super shows, or your major shows. Chris is going to come on with us, but I've ran a reptile show just a little ways from us, and it's the biggest one, I think, in Canada, but in Western Canada for sure. And, we probably have 120 booths, and like, we only get like 3,500 people through the door, but for that show, it's small by people population, but like, those people always come to spend. That's the nice
right
thing. Europe to come to it, the States, Eastern Canada.
Yeah,
and somebody from Holland that fly out.
Yeah, it's all relative too, because like, you guys could travel state to state and have a show every weekend if you wanted to. Whereas like, local to us, there's 5 shows in, like, there's 2 in the spring, 1 in the summer, and 2 in the fall, and that's it.
Wow.
So when those shows happen, there's people that, it's a way bigger deal. So people are coming to spend because, the animals have hatched, and, all these new babies are going to be, freshly available at these shows. And so, I mean, it's all relative. There's
supply and demand. Right? Yeah. Less shows means there's more demand to buy.
Yeah.
So
like, we almost have too many shows at some point, or sometimes.
You hear that about Eastern Canada?
Yeah, and Eastern Canada is the same thing. In Toronto, they have a show at least every month, month to 6 weeks. And the breeders, especially ball python guys, because you're literally like ball python, breeders, like, next to each other, the people are totally haggling with them because, you know, they're going to wait till the next show. Like, if you're not going to give me like this rock bottom price, I'm going to let you feed it for another month, and then I'll see if you want to sell it next month.
So is it not like that in Western Canada since there's fewer shows?
Western Canada, no, because there's fewer shows for sure.
So is it not that many ball python breeders at the shows? Is there more
Percentage of them,
variety?
but there's a lot of variety for the size of show we have. We typically get guys do a lot of colubrids and some different interesting things. But there's a good chunk of like anything. You still get a lot of ball python guys, leopard gecko guys, crescent gecko guys. So it's similar, but on a different scale.
The ball python market has lasted a lot longer, but I mean, we've been in this industry quite a while. Like, it all comes in cycles. Like, you know, one season or maybe, you know, 2 or 3 seasons, it's like, my God, there's so many bearded dragons. Like, this is crazy. Like, why are these people breeding these things like crazy? And, you know, and then they stop breeding, and then it's leopard geckos or crested geckos, or like ball pythons have like outlasted all of them. But, you know, I'm noticing the resurgence of other animals, and there's going to be other ones too that, you know, are easily breedable, and people, you know, start breeding something other than ball pythons. So ball pythons, you know, they're great and everything, but like, everybody has them, and I can't imagine how hard it is for them to sell when you're sitting next to 3 other vendors selling the exact same snake.
Yeah,
Right.
No, we still have variety up here. Captive bred, I would say, is the majority, but we do have, you know, a few importers, so we get stuff from Europe and Asia and even that are, you know, that's local in the US. We get some stuff. We did a few builds for stuff that would probably originated in the US.
So are Canada laws more strict than?
We have a lot of provincial. Like, I know you've got, like, for example, they're just different. Because a lot of stuff can't establish itself up here, it's probably not as restrictive because, you know, a lot of states, a lot of different animals could establish. We've got pretty strict laws in Alberta here. We can't keep any venomous, any crocodilians, any of the 5 giants, and then anything that could potentially be dangerous. So there's quite a long list of animals we can't keep. A lot of the bigger monitors and stuff, like the croc monitors and stuff, we can't keep here. But there's a lot of stuff we can keep, and there's a lot of stuff out there. But, you know, we can freely transport indigo snakes all the way across. We can keep San Francisco garter snakes where you guys can't. So there's, you know, some of it's more restrictive, but some of it's not.
But in regards to, like, for other places in Canada, Alberta is actually one of the, you know, the laws at the time were actually made based on the recommendations of reptile keepers. So they actually back then listened to the reptile keepers who are well known, and they helped, you know, a lot. I mean, we don't need to own venomous snakes. We don't need to own snakes that are, you know, potentially dangerous. And who needs a crocodile? Like, you know, it'd be great to own one, but the general public shouldn't have any of these animals. So our laws are actually really good, but like the province over from us, Saskatchewan, like their laws are crazy. Like you can with a permit you can own a crocodile, but you can't own a sand boa. Like it's
no ones at all. So like literally,
what
species you can't have, but you can have a freaking saltwater crocodile.
Yeah,
is there any basis for that?
No.
Well, I mean,
it was at some point.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, like here, the ones they did here, they basically tried to establish itself. They limited. They're restricted in Alberta, but you can still still there if somebody goes through the hoops to get the permits and stuff. But you basically almost need to be a zoo to do it. So there's a lot of hoops you'd have to go through, wildlife and all that stuff. It's not impossible. It's just really unlikely. So your average keeper can't keep anything like that.
Imagine though, like even in the States, I'm sure they're probably fairly similar. The one thing that we don't have a lot of experience here is like in Ontario, they have a lot of municipality restrictions where if you live in this town, you can't have specific things. But for us, especially, it's provincial. So it's the whole province, has to follow these laws. So it's a little bit easier, but, I don't know for the U.S. I don't know their laws at all.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. to where you would have state regulation and what's allowed in the state, and then you have some cities that restrict you further. And then you have obviously the country that restricts you maybe from importing anacondas or something like that. But we purposely moved from places. So we lived in Texas, which is me. So
he chose, I moved.
So we lived in Texas, which is probably like the second least restricted states as far as big states with a lot of reptile people. And then we moved to Pennsylvania, which is just like whatever goes, free for all out here. But that's mostly because even though I only keep corn snakes and stuff,
we mostly
keep corn snakes and stuff.
Right.
It's something to where I know that the laws only get stricter as time goes on, it seems. So we're kind of being ahead of the ball. I came from New York, which is a very restrictive state. But it's also it's a very common sense type of state. No venomous, even no retics and stuff like that. And I totally understand that.
Yeah, same. Like we can't keep the retics, we can't keep the berms, we can't keep the African rock pythons, can't keep the Indian pythons. There's something else I'm forgetting, but anyways, no scrubs we can keep. Anyway, it's basically the giants, right? That we can't keep.
Again, it's common sense, though. It's the animals that Joe Public shouldn't have to begin with. You know, I mean, it's even like the venomous snakes, you know, the whole thing back in the day was like they're only kept by drug dealers because they want something cool. I mean, you don't want anybody to have those accessible, you know, animals that could do harm. And it's the people who are keeping the illegal stuff that's going to cause problems for all of us. Like that's the hardest thing is, you know, we can promote the hobby as much as we want, but there's so many people that are dead set against reptiles in general that are trying to stop it just as fast too.
The easiest thing for them to do is just do blanket regulation. So instead of going down to species and subspecies, they make it easy because they don't know these animals, so they just boom,
blanket,
big wide swath of stuff, right? So we try and avoid that. So if we keep stuff out of the negative press and educate as many people as we can to follow the regulations, that helps everybody.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the one nice thing about the show is like, you know, everybody sees all the negative stuff, like, you know, rattlesnake bites and like people keeping venomous and things that do harm. Like Scaled is the first show that's
great. I want to say for people that know what they're doing and have experience and can talk for me. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, no, and I don't either. Yeah. But like that's the nice thing with our show is that like it's, you know, reptiles are finally being seen in a positive light, which really hasn't done. I mean, yeah, YouTube videos and stuff like that, but like mainstream media, I mean, well, yeah, back in the day, but yeah,
but people today would probably frown upon the way he did it as well.
At the time, they did too. A lot of the old keepers didn't like how sensationalistic or over the top enthusiastic he was, but there's whole generations of kids and stuff that love it. And he seemed like an amazing, awesome guy. Like, yeah, he was a little over the top, and you know, but clearly the guy was passionate about reptiles and loved them. And that resonates. So that's what stuck with everybody is that guy's passion.
Yeah.
And years to come, like someone, you have a video that you made a while ago, see Erwin, and someone literally commented this week, and they're like, "I'm choking up watching the video right now." I'm like, whoa.
And it's like kids seeing Steve Irwin like, for the first time.
I mean, that's just crazy that years later, he still has that effect on people.
Well, because they're coming out with the new show, they wanted us to film some stuff about him. And, you know, I can think back the day, I remember what I was doing when I heard that he died. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. Like, the things you remember growing up is, like, you know, and I didn't even have, like, you know, I grew up in a small town, so we didn't even have major, like, cable networks. Like, I don't even know if I would have ever seen him on TV. Like, yeah, just it's the passion that he had, and you know the love for the animals.
Things change in time too. Like at the time, you know, I remember a lot of blowback and stuff. Yeah, the old school keepers didn't like what was going on, but some of those guys now talk very fondly about that. Like it's kind of almost revisionist history, right? Where now because it's all so much in the past, and they're looking at stuff that's happening now, and they're going, you know what, that wasn't so bad, and you know the guy did have that passion, so they kind of changed their opinion a bit on that stuff, which is cool. I mean. You know, it is what it is, but you know, again, when you're doing something, you get people that are going to hate whatever you're doing because they're going to find one thing, you know, 100 things they love, and the one thing they don't like, so they're going to focus on that, right? People are focused on negative or be offended by whatever. So you can only do what you can do, and you can't worry about the rest.
We're Canadians, so we apologize a lot.
Yeah.
You guys
We're
are the
sorry.
nicest.
We're sorry.
You're supposed to be the
Sorry.
nice people. Canadians are supposed to be the nice ones.
I know, right?
And in another
She said
day,
that like we're not. Wait a minute, what's happening here?
No. I'm talking about the people
Other
hating
Canadians.
on you. I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, we're done with this. The funny thing is, there's a ton of memes going around because tomorrow pot is legal Canada-wide.
Someone
So-
just talked about that on our chat.
So we'll be even more friendly tomorrow.
Yeah, our whole country's gonna be way friendlier.
I love what's his name? Justin Trudeau. Is that his name?
Trudeau. Yeah.
I like
we're
him.
not fans.
Very American of you to not even know how to pronounce his name.
What the fuck?
That's okay.
He just likes his
Trudeau.
smile.
It's French.
Yeah, he is a very attractive man. Probably the
That's
most
why I like
attractive
him.
world
Oh.
leader. So that's got one thing going.
Yeah. And
Can't
we love
speak much
Trump.
for our guy. I don't know.
We have the ugliest one. And you guys have the most attractive.
He's the easiest to make a cartoon character with.
Him and his buddy from North Korea. So they're
Yeah.
right there at the top.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Way off
Woo,
topic.
where are we going?
That happens. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we tend to do.
See, you're apologizing again.
The one thing that was funny when we first started all this is they came to us and they were really interested in us because they thought we would have a Canadian accent, and they were disappointed.
Well, no, they tried to hide it
You
at first.
totally
The very
do.
I know the very first video they did, they made us re-record a bunch of phrases and words we said. We had to sit here in the dark in the shop one night over the phone, re-record certain words like process instead of process, and a few other things to try and hide the fact we're Canadian. And then the producer, one of the guys that was working on it, the development guy, sends us his email from Animal Planet. He's laughing. He goes, you guys don't know this. We tried to hide the fact you're Canadian, and then he shows us this email from one of the head people at Animal Planet that's like, we really like these Canadians you found us, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, whatever. I'm not going to worry about that anymore.
But you do have an accent.
No, we don't.
At least
don't think-
Craig does, right?
We think you do.
Yeah, everything you do.
But when you say it's words, it's words
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, it is
You
words,
say
yeah.
about very different.
About?
A boot.
About?
About,
Yeah.
you're
The
You're-
Americans say we say it way different than we actually say it.
about like you very much emphasize
The O's are.
the O's. Your O's are much stronger.
It's cold up here.
Yeah, it's because we're under
Shivering.
20 feet of snow.
But you don't say A. I totally was waiting for one of those.
Okay?
We need another beer at
Yeah.
least. We don't say it's. That's not really a thing.
Oh darn!
Yeah.
That's not really, eh?
No.
Do you leave your doors unlocked at night? That's a thing I've heard in Canada that they don't lock their doors.
Small town Canada, yes. We
Just-
live in a city.
Just like small town America. I'm
Yeah.
sure small town
Yeah,
America
I'm sure
would
like
too.
Topeka, Kansas, somebody like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I kept my doors unlocked. When
Yeah,
I was
you
a
told me
kid.
that last weekend, which is just so weird to me.
Yeah, me too. I grew up near Vancouver, right? A city, so we locked our doors.
Yeah, and I grew up in a small town, so we were on like a farm, like 10 minutes outside of a town, and I mean,
You had attack pigs, though.
yeah, we had a tax pig.
Oh wait, what?
No, we
I'm just
didn't.
making stuff up.
She'll believe you on stuff like that. If you can get her going for like 10
I'm
minutes.
really
If we would have
gullible.
done this an hour ago, we could
Yeah.
really fucked with them.
Yeah.
He gets
We have
it
tax frogs at the shop.
Yeah.
We've got,
We have those.
yeah, we have little frogs with cameras. Oh, we do have something we can tell you about the show just to keep it more interesting. We have some hidden things in the show that most people wouldn't know.
Pineapples? Like,
Yeah.
Pineapples? Did you say pineapples?
yeah, that's a thing. You never heard that?
No,
Is that not a known thing? Am I
Pineapples
making
is
this up?
it's a different thing.
So we
I
have,
thought that was someone's safe word or something. I don't know.
yeah. Oh, she just blew your safe word.
No, pineapples are like hidden things in shows.
Okay.
Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe I'm making that up.
Not
It's a
pineapples.
hospitality thing.
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah, it is.
No.
Yeah, it is. So we have a rooster made out of black PVC.
You get it?
So it's our BBC, and it's hidden in the background of several scenes. We tried to have it in the background of every scene.
She doesn't know what a BBC is.
the channel?
Yep,
BBC
yep, that's what it
America.
was.
Yeah, let's go with that.
It's a rooster.
It's a British joke.
Oh,
What's that
Easter
word
egg.
for-
That's what it is. Not a
Yeah,
pineapple.
exactly.
What's another
Easter
word for,
egg.
what's another word for a rooster?
I know what you're alluding to. I'm just not gonna
Yeah.
say it.
It was very large and it was black.
Wow.
So we have that hidden. We have that hidden all over. We moved it all over the
We tried
shop.
to get in as many scenes
Yeah.
as we could. We've only seen it twice.
Yeah, had that.
That was just us.
And,
That was for us.
That was for us. And then the producers during filming, my daughter said, "So cool!" Like pretty much in every scene she was in. So that's a drinking game.
That's for the production guys playing game though.
These guys know it.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll use it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make it.
Every time Evan says "so cool," everybody has to take a shot.
Yeah.
Maybe hammered by the end of the episode.
Was there any scene you felt was like really put on?
Put
Like,
on?
put on.
You were
Yes.
like, "This is so silly."
Not
Was that what
silly,
you
but
mean?
like, okay, I'm thinking in the first episode
I can think of
when
one.
the girl, I don't remember anyone's names. The girl was with the large man and they were sitting at the table and she was like asking him all these questions about this animal. I'm like, I know this girl isn't really thinking of these questions right now. Like this has to be
Well,
like
she was. She knows
Yeah.
the stuff about this animal. So she was legitimately asked, but she already knew the answers.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I was like.
But
There's
she,
no
but she was just asking. She's thinking like, what can I ask about these animals?
okay. I had
It
a feeling
wasn't
she
fed
knew
to
the
her.
answer.
It wasn't put on like fed to her, but it was like to have a conversation where she's like, well, I already know, so it's gonna be boring if she's like, hey, this. She's like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. So she's kind of like, tell me about there, you know, or what about this?
Okay,
Anything
I'm glad.
about, like, so there was a couple, like, there's a couple things that were planned. I don't want to ruin
But
those.
very little, like
Very little.
surprisingly little, way
Yeah.
less than you would think.
Like, I mean, even like, let's just say for the belt or the treadmill. I mean, that wasn't something we were going to do. That wasn't something we wanted to do. And I, like, during it,
We
I,
joked about using a belt center for a treadmill, so we had to do that in the end.
yeah,
Because we're like, that's the only way we're going to make a treadmill for Kevin.
Yeah.
Use a belt center, turn the belt inside out, take the motor off.
but stuff like, you know, those scenes where we're around the boardroom table, like, that shit gets filmed out of order. Like,
Yeah.
at that point, we had already, like, built half the thing when we did that.
Yeah, the brainstorming sessions where like sometimes we already know what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But
Well,
again, that's a 45-minute or an hour thing they're filming, and they show like 30 seconds of it. So it's
yeah.
hard to say. But the dart frog thing, that was the one thing that was put on.
Yeah, the dart frog thing, if you
With the
guys saw
poison.
that with like getting
Q-tip.
chance with the Q-tip, that was a setup.
It's hype again because he's such a nice guy. He didn't actually touch him with it. They actually put some. They were trying to play a prank on Chance. They put some Novocaine on a Q-tip, right? So they wanted to actually hit him with the Q-tip and then be like telling him about how because he doesn't know about these reptiles. He's not a reptile. Like two people on the cast that's not a reptile person, and he knows like nothing about them. So they're talking about the dart frogs and being poisonous and stuff. So they're doing the swap. Like they legitimately set that up to mess with Chance, not for the show. So that was just to mess with him, and then they would film his reaction, thinking it was funny. And they were doing that, and they actually switched the swab. So Tyrone had one that had Novocaine on it instead of the one that Lucas did, touching the frog. And he went to go touch his face, but Tyrone's so nice, he didn't really reach out too far, and he missed him the first time because he's too nice and didn't want to like smack him in the face. So then they were like, they had to stop, and they had to like, okay, we're just going to do this, and then they had to tell Chance what they were doing.
What it was.
Yeah.
And then it was
And then
kind
he's
of
like, oh, well, I'm a ginger. I've got red hair, so Novocaine doesn't work on me anyway. Like, some kind of, he's got some, my dad's got like, apparently he's got like, my dad's got some red hair, and he's got a real high tolerance to like mental anesthetic. So apparently it's a thing. It's a real thing.
Wait.
But anyway, we don't
What?
really know for sure if he does or doesn't. He just said he does.
Now I'm trying to think if I'm
So now they had to do it, and then
me,
they had to actually get him, and then he overacted so much that the producer was like, "Hey, we can't use that." But they just used the first few seconds of his reaction because after that, he just went right off the deep end. Like, okay, we can't use it because now you're just acting, and you're not an actor. But the way they filmed it and they used it, it actually worked really good in the show, and it was funny to see how they did it because the way it was filmed and happened was supposed to be way better, and it didn't work. Then from what didn't work, they actually made it work again, which was good. So that was kind of one thing.
Post-production. magic.
It was more to play a joke on Chance rather than set up something for the show. It was more us messing with him. But
when do y'all do the little like interview side things?
Those were all like those were really hard to do because a lot of the times they were done like way after.
Well, some of them they do like some of the ones we shot a bunch of them. And it's weird. I never saw the ones we did. Well, OTFs they call them on the fly. So you film the stuff. You're doing this. Now they take you outside. Okay, now talk about what just happened. Talk about it like it's happening right now. So here's this and this is happening. It's a little weird to do. And then some of them we did interviews in another location, and it was like 2 or 3 months after you filmed it.
Yeah, you have to talk about it like it.
Talk about it like it's happening right now. You're like you're trying to remember like what actually happened. Yeah, because so much stuff happened over those like 4.5 months.
I've always wondered that in shows. I thought they might like show it back to you.
Sometimes they do. Like especially if you couldn't remember, what happened. Yeah. They'll show us the clip.
So we come here, look at my laptop, we'll watch the scene. Oh yeah, right, that's what happened. Okay, that's what I did.
But like while it's happening, they don't stop us and we go outside and do an interview. Like for the stuff that you can see like backgrounds for, like where it's outside or whatever, we would have done the reveal on the project. And then after that was done and after they got everything on the inside, they would have us outside and talk about, what just happened. Like it just happened, but it was like, 2 hours after. But the stuff where we're sitting down in another location, it was like sometimes 2-3 months after those interviews, especially because we would have done it once. Maybe it wasn't good enough or we said something wrong. Then they have to redo it. So
not even that. It's some of it too is maybe the audio cuts out or it's muffled or somebody's mic, you brushed up against it. So there's like feedback or something. They can't hear it. So like, okay, now they want the audio again for that. So a lot of that happens too.
Yeah. Or there's noises like the amount of times in my shop we had to stop because a plane flew over.
There's an airport not far from here. Yeah. So, but yeah, one afternoon we were trying to film some of the actually. Those like little cut scenes where they'll show like the Eurobastics running or whatever else, like on a black background or some water or whatever. They'd be doing stuff, or you'd be taught, or the ones we were talking, the educational segments for talking about an animal. Plane flies by, so you have to stop halfway through. Get a plane to finish. Now keep talking again. It's really weird.
But I mean, you got to stop running CNC machines, all these things that you would normally do as well.
When you're filming stuff, you can only film the one thing that's being, or you can only do the one thing that's being filmed. So it slows, your work down incredibly. Because they're filming a CNC. Okay, that's okay. So that's not so bad because it's loud enough that you can do other stuff. But if it's a scene where they're doing some R&D or, like they did the puzzle feeder, right? Well, now nothing else in the shop can happen while they're filming that. So we all have to stand around and watch and wait. We can't make a sound while they film that scene. That may take a couple hours.
Yeah, that was the frustrating part is knowing we had to get stuff done and having to sit there. I mean, sometimes for a couple
or
hours.
You're working on something, you're legitimately working on it, but that's the one thing that's only being worked on in the shop, whereas other stuff could be happening, but it can't because they're filming this one thing. So
right.
And they got Rachel bending a horseshoe. Okay, now nobody else can work. So they're showing that, which is great. They're showing, this is like for build, but it's like, but nothing else is happening. So we got to wait. So it just makes all the work take longer throughout the day, right?
Yet they're trying to make it take shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they were. How about we do this, but faster?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Don't work, but work faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so fun. Like it was such an amazing thing. The whole thing, all the way through, it was what a crazy experience.
Yeah. Like that's the biggest thing for me was like it was so hard. It was something we'd never done before, and the demands put on us were so unrealistic in points that you're just like we can't keep this.
Then doing it was such a crazy high almost, where you're like you got it done. You're like like meeting those challenges every time was so amazing that now we talk about it after. Now that we're not filming, you're like, man, I miss. At the time, you hated it because it was so intense and crazy. You loved it, but it was really difficult and a challenge. And now afterwards, you're like, the adrenaline's gone, and you're like, I miss that. Yeah.
So
it's weird somehow when you're giving like an unrealistic, seemingly deadline, you just make yourself better and faster.
Yeah,
and
somehow find a way to do it.
Yeah.
And today, for example, I had to sleep in my truck for half an hour. I showed up to work because I had no energy, and then I got into the shop and then slept in my chair for another half an hour.
Now, if you did it over again, what would you do if you're filming a second season? What would you do
differently?
Preparation for me.
Yeah, preparation. Basically, having what we were hoping is like by now we would actually have a second season. The hardest part was they were giving us clients like literally the day.
They'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, we're starting today building this thing, and we haven't had time to think about anything. So like if we get the front end time where we know what we're building and we can plan, that means we could hire a secondary crew that's working through the night, and we're doing the stuff on camera and some of the build. But you know what we did in 4 months, there's no way we can maintain that long term. And you could even see, you know, personally, you can see yourself on TV and notice when you were tired or when you were off, you know, on an interview.
You had like 2 hours sleep the night before. Yeah, you're just exhausted.
Like they harped on us for that. And at the time, you feel like you're doing great, and then you see yourself and you're like, holy shit, I look hungover or I look tired or, you know, whatever. But it was all like the biggest thing is the planning and being able to have more people to do less work.
I don't know that we can necessarily even we would love to be able to have a ghost crew to do some of the work at night, but I don't know if we'll be able to. But if we can be more prepared and know ahead of time what we're doing instead of doing it as we're doing it, so that we can do that prep work, we can have the stuff nailed down. Because while we were building it, we're like, okay, we want to do this. Okay, great. It has to go through network. It has to go through production. Everybody has to approve it. It takes time. We finally get the approval back, and they start to build it and go, okay, actually, we can't do it this way now because of this. And you got to go back to these people and this guy. So it slows everything down. If we can get all that done ahead of time, that should make everything go much more smoothly.
Well, and I think too, because we didn't have that prep time too, a big part. I think some stuff took a lot longer than it should have, because like we're making changes on, like, you know, these guys, there was a couple or one build I can think specifically where like it kept having to change for stupid reasons. So like you guys had to build the one part like 3 times.
Yeah.
And things just took longer because size, and you know, we've got to meet the animals requirements, we have to meet the room requirements, we have to meet what the people want. And you know, the people building might not have even seen, you know, usually there'd be 1 or 2 people that would go for a meet and greet. Well, the people building aren't usually the ones doing that. So it was like the planning is the biggest thing that would help us huge. Yeah.
And we've done a lot of this stuff now, so we know what it takes to build certain things now, and certain thematic things that we'd never done before. We'd never done a lot of this fake rock work and stuff. You know, so now we know how to do this stuff that maybe, you know, we've maybe tried a bit of before, but when you've done it on a big scale, you can actually do it now.
I also think from the production standpoint, they understand how we work better, because you know, we told them what we needed to get this done, which was actually probably 2 weeks was very realistic. So they wanted to see us get it done in 1. Well, it literally wasn't going to happen.
And like a 5-day week, not 7 days.
Yeah.
Like a business week.
Yeah, and so I think from their standpoint too, they know what to expect now. And same thing, they know that they have to worry about the animals' needs, just not, you know, to look good on TV.
And too, when we started, I was working a full-time job elsewhere as a sales rep. So trying to balance that with this, it came to the point where it was like, hey, it's got to give, and then I just came on full-time. So
there's no way you could do both.
No, and I was trying to, and it was really difficult initially, right? So that was part of the challenge too. So it was us learning to work together with each other too. There are much people who haven't really worked together before, and we all have pretty similar mindsets and personalities match really well together. And we got to a crazy stressful thing, and we're also good friends. So this is good.
Yeah,
we know how to work together, and we know how each other works, right? So it'll be a lot quicker once you've done it once. You can do it, you know, quicker and easier the second time around.
Well, and we know everybody's strengths and weaknesses a lot more, like what certain people can take on and what they can't.
Yeah.
Stress levels. Some people did better with stress, other people didn't.
So what would it take for you guys to be able to have a ghost crew?
I don't know. I don't know that we could. Like, I know ideally we'd like to, but
we just need
to know
like
construction and the animals, and it's such a weird thing to do, and custom stuff. It's not just straight up, cabinetry we're building. You can't bring a cabinet maker in here and have them build a reptile enclosure. You can build a cabinet, but it's got to be right for, a water dragon. Well, it's got to have this and this and this. So it's a challenge.
To have a full-on ghost crew, I think we'd have to be season 3 or 4, where basically we have enough work that when the show's not on, there's all these big projects that we can keep people employed.
Yeah, keep them going.
That's the hardest thing is, like, once the show ended, most people went back to doing their own thing because, like, I've still got to stay like afloat, and I've got to make money, and I can't have 8 people sitting around hoping we're going to get jobs. So once we start getting the jobs and we have to hire on more people, we hire those people that have reptile experience, woodwork experience. We train people. It's just something that's going to take time.
Yeah, and it's like being in the industry, I was for 20 years or 16 years, before that. As a sales rep selling stuff to cabinet companies, I know probably 300 cabinet shops. There's lots of guys I can tap into, but guys they already have full-time jobs. They're not going to work part-time, on an unknown schedule and weird hours
for 4 months.
They've already got a full-time job, right? The guys that are good know what they're doing. It's hard to find guys that would be able to do that for just a small period of time, temporary work, part-time, like Greg said, unless it was to the point where it was
could keep
that kind of volume to keep them on full-time all the time. It's a challenge.
Now, has that changed your creative process? Because obviously you're like forced to create immediately.
It's changed completely, and it's funny because I think for me, having Rachel on, she's got a very creative mind, and she had that 3D background where she, like, I can draw stuff in CAD, but like if you were to look at all my stuff that I built before the show started, a lot of it looked very similar, different sizes and stuff, but the way they were all designed was kind of one-track mind. Or would be somebody said, hey, I like this one, can you build it? And I could, I can look at something and copy it, whereas she had a better
architecture and design background, as an amazing finisher. She's also a carpenter, but also can do all the finishing work too. Well, which one's she going to do more of, right?
Yeah.
Trying to find a balance.
So a lot of the designs was nice because, I'm used to doing this on my own, but now having like 6 or 8 different people that were brainstorming to come up with these like over the top ideas, it's kind of cool, but it's hard at the same time because for me, even with these guys, they did most of the work, and it was hard for me to say, this is my business for 20 or 18 years. I've been doing it all myself. And now I have to like rely, I have to put the trust in these people to do all these, crazy jobs that, I don't know how they're going to do it. Or I mean, I don't think they knew at the time, but we all came up with these cool ideas and we pulled them all off. It's crazy.
We worked well together and fed off each other.
Yeah.
So we bounced a lot of different ideas off each other. So it became, kind of a group mind, right?
Yeah.
We were all putting stuff together for the design work, and it worked well.
Yeah, I guess there's something when you all get together for a common cause.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously you need to get the show done.
Yeah. Well, that was it. But like, dealing with the production, and it wasn't just like we had to come up with that idea. And like Chris said, we had to come up with the idea, and then we had to sell it to the network, and it had to be good enough.
We had to sell it to production, and then production had to sell it to the network.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to, that killed me as a sales guy to not be able to like, just let me talk to the network. It's like, no, this is what we do. So we've got to sell it to them and then hope that they relay the message the right way to sell it to the network. So that was always a challenge too.
Yeah, like the process. The process. That was one I caught because they gave us such a hard time right from the start. But like right from the beginning, that was like, that took forever to like, they wanted us to be starting the next day, but they couldn't let us get started until like it had been approved. And
but from what we heard from experienced people in the industry and guys working on the show that work on different shows, is that this process going through, with animal plant discovery and all that stuff was much more, quicker and more streamlined than a lot of other shows. Yeah. So they said like, this is actually quick. A lot of other shows, it's a lot of red tape, a lot of hands in there. Everybody has their own ideas. So they said we were actually very lucky that even as long as we felt it took, it was actually very quick in the TV sense. So we were very fortunate to have the team we were working with. And Animal Planet just got great people that were quick to approve stuff and trust us, which is good.
So we have, well, we're just about 2 hours. So before we get off, the giant dinosaur behind you, I need to ask about that.
Oh, I forgot about that. Uh-huh. What's your question?
Why does it exist and what's going on? And it seems huge.
It doesn't. They're extinct. That's why it's bones.
That was a silly question.
Why would you not have a giant dinosaur in your shop?
Did you just make that one day and decide to put it there, or is it for a project?
No. That's so. The one thing about my shop is I have a squirrel mentality, and if I get bored, I do stuff that just I think is fun. So around my shop, there's a lot of projects. I was just gonna see if I can take the computer. There's actually
Oh, the computer hates it when you take it out.
like,
Oh, damn.
Up in the ceiling.
Yeah. Way up in the ceiling. There's a pterodactyl.
So if you have them.
Why would you not have this? We've got like wood animal heads everywhere. Yeah. We answer this because we can. Yeah.
Well,
You know what's cool about our business? Sorry.
Well,
You're
no.
back.
Yeah. It was me plugging everything back in again.
Yeah. So the answer is because we can.
Yeah.
Well, you
I
said
think-
computer
I think-
doesn't- Oh, go.
I think at the heart of it is like we like to screw around and like have fun and whatever. And I think that's at the heart why the business has been so successful is just because like we don't take stuff like too seriously. And, you know, it'd be great to have a business where it's just 9 to 5 and we just work. But, you know, when we want to have fun, we have fun. And
we take the work seriously, like, you know, as it is, but it's, you still have to have fun during the day and you know, why you don't want to come to work and be miserable every day, right? We like to laugh and joke around and have fun. So
yeah. So, you know, on a Friday, if we're, you know, fighting or doing, you know, bored of what we're doing, you know, like maybe we make dinosaur animals. We're like little kids here.
Well, I couldn't say that that's a bad thing if you can, you know,
That makes good
do
television.
something to where you can do childish things.
And have fun with it.
I
There's
think
a
that's
reason
pretty
why
much
we
the
have a
goal.
TV show.
grab the little one. Grab the little one.
Oh, yeah.
Get one on his desk
Yeah.
too.
You know, it's funny. We're about the only ones on this right now. Just want to say YouTube's messing up for everyone. All of our viewers can only see video or only see the chat or only hear sound. Like it's just
Then people on the download, which is
YouTube
most
is
people, will
just
be
messing
fine.
up for everyone right now. So it literally is telling us we have one viewer because
I'm wondering if this was live or how people saw this. We don't use Google Hangouts ever.
So some people are watching live right now and they're like commenting in the chat, but then we also put the audio on like SoundCloud and iTunes, and
Which
also
is most people.
yes, but
listen
then
that
also
way.
the video after this is over will still be up on our YouTube channel. So like, I mean, obviously you guys can go watch yourselves on TV, but if you were interested in watching yourself back, this will
You
be
should
up.
cut all the terrible stuff out. Maybe get it down to like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We don't edit the video. We edit the audio, which will, yes, probably be like 20 minutes. It'll be a lot shorter after editing.
Well, let's see the mini dinosaurs now that you went on that diatribe.
Sorry.
What? How many followers do you guys have?
On YouTube?
Sure.
That's a great question.
Like 7,000. We're
Ooh,
not
great
like,
voice crack, by
thank
the way.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. I just thought it was cool that somebody wanted to talk to us. So I was like, sure, why not?
Well, I just tried to go to YouTube homepage to tell you how many, and it said internal server error. Something went wrong. A team of highly trained monkeys has been dispatched to deal with this
Well,
situation.
put some fucking humans on it, not monkeys, you idiots. That's why it's messed up.
Any excuse we have to talk about reptiles with people is already good.
Yeah. Okay.
Mini dinosaurs.
Mini dinosaurs.
Yeah, we like
I
dinosaurs.
love dinosaurs. Everybody loves dinosaurs.
It's a Oh, there it is. Because we didn't get to see the
We
ones.
didn't actually
our
see it
computer
because it
went crazy.
glitched. We didn't actually see the mini dinosaur. The
No,
mini
that
one, the one on the
little ones.
desk.
Jimmy. Show him Jimmy. We've got a lot of skulls around the shop, and Tyrone. Yeah, Tyrone likes to collect bones, but this is our skull, Jimmy.
So is that a legitimate human skull?
Maybe. You'll never know.
There might have been another cast member who never made
This
it.
might be the missing cast member.
Hey, we keep snakes and we know a bunch of people, so that wouldn't be weird to us if you had a human skull. It's just...
We did at one point have an actual human skull here at the shop.
So Tyrone has a business where he collects, I guess they're considered really old human bones. So he actually had some human bones here he was showing us, which was really cool. We're looking at those, and then he was going to put them in a build, and they actually asked the network, and they're like, yeah, you can't. So
Yeah,
we didn't
no.
get to.
Well, that seems like a good gift for a customer.
Some real things, you know,
We didn't
authentic.
charge you, but
Yeah.
but Leroy's parents might
Yeah.
appreciate this.
Great grandfather. There is it.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to get in touch with you guys, how would they do so?
Leave a really funny voicemail message
And
and we'll
some of
call them
those.
back. No. Anyway, I mean, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's easy enough to Google the shop, and we've got a dedicated one.
Cornelsworld.com.
Yeah. We're very easily accessible, so by phone, email.
Yeah. We're typically most of the time. We try and be active somewhat on social media if we can, like Facebook and Instagram especially. Twitter a little bit.
Yeah.
I always seem to forget about Twitter. Instagram too. I'm trying to be more active on that. Usually Facebook for me, and then Rachel's more Instagram, and then Facebook, and then Greg's kind of all of them.
Well, we'll
Where do you
link a
think
bunch
that's
of that below.
Sorry?
We'll link all that below in the show for
good.
everyone.
Sure. Yeah, big long list.
Yeah, they'll be covering the whole screen.
And if anyone wants to contact us, obviously Instagram, Port City Pythons, Facebook, Port City Pythons, website, portcitypythons.com. If you want to email us, it's theportcitypythons@gmail.com. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Greg and Chris,
Well,
again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
If you're ever in Canada and want to come by the shop,
Yeah, come check us out.
Come check us out.
I feel like
need
you
a
can't
sled
just say like Canada. That's a whole country.
Yeah,
Right.
you are on the opposite side of the giant
Yeah.
country.
Maybe it's bigger than the U.S.
Yeah,
We're
you
like-
can't- that's like you saying, or that's like us saying, if you're ever in America, like no.
Yeah, exactly. No, we've had people come up from Florida already, actually, to come visit the shop.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So forever actually in Calgary or near.
Yes.
There you go.
If you're in Alberta, or in Calgary especially.
We're like 4 hours from Great Falls, maybe farther. 6.
4 or 5 hours from Great Falls.
Yeah.
Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Montana's right below us. So
I was like, what is Great Falls? I don't know. What that
Yeah,
is.
Montana's not exactly a very popular state among the United States.
I know it's. Yeah. Yeah, you won't happen to be here. You'll actually be here if you're here. Not gonna accidentally come to Calgary.
Like all the 3 America places they've like listed, I've
America
literally
places.
never heard of. Like Albany, Washington, Arlington, Washington, and
Yeah.
like Great Falls.
We're nowhere near Los Angeles or New York or Philadelphia or Chicago.
January 6th weekend we'll be in Pomona. And it's like basically the Portland show is the one next week, but
Yeah.
like an hour and a half away here or whatever. But
Yeah, it's all new.
yeah, we'll
But make sure you're there because it'll be awesome.
yeah, it'll be awesome. And maybe yeah, no one, Jeff. Hey, buddies. We're hoping. Yeah, I know those. We're hoping to get to more shows. Like as this show gets more exposure, we're hoping that we'd be able to, maybe even. I mean, that's kind of the thing we're looking forward to. Is maybe people want to see them.
Go to the expos and hang out would be amazing.
Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
love to get our expenses paid to go to shows and hang out and talk reptiles all weekend,
Yeah.
but we're not there yet.
Who knows?
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get there. But thank you, everyone, for watching and listening
guys.
and all that good stuff. We will check you out next week.
Bye.